and still only $10.
Stop by Ace Hardware, First Horizon Bank, Harry's Convenience Store, or White Star Cleaners and get yours today.
Hopefully you too will have a chance to get outside and enjoy the beautiful day like I'm having an opportunity to do this morning. It does so much to help your sense of well-being when you can be outside on a day like this, but let's face it, COVID is still very much going on, and it's an appropriate time for us to head over, like we had this morning, to Focus Treatment Centers on Shallowford Road. Dr. Chris Harris joins me this morning. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
I guess this has been a year, 2020, of trying to find the bright spots where they are, so we'll celebrate this beautiful day. But if you are someone who has a history of struggling with an eating disorder, or perhaps COVID has brought one about for you, it can be a really difficult thing to see anything but this, I guess, kind of consumption in your life with how food or lack of it can take control.
Yes, absolutely. COVID-19 has been a very complicating factor with those struggling with eating disorders. We've seen 80% increases in call volume to helplines for the National Eating Disorder Association. Many people with anorexia and binge eating disorder are reporting that their symptoms are increasing, 40, 50%. So
I'm going to ask you to help me understand why, because I've had conversations like this one with you a number of times over the years on 3+U, and I want so much to understand it. But if anyone like me is watching and maybe they haven't walked the walk, it's hard to understand what it is that creates this increase in the problem. So you were sharing with me some things, even like not having the regimen that you're used to having in your day, where there's a go-to food product that might not be on the grocery store shelves.
Sure, we call that food insecurity, the lack of access to specific food or food in general. And if someone is on a specific meal plan and they don't have access to the parts of that meal plan, it can be very disruptive and complicating for them. And yes, that's one thing that can make this whole issue harder for them to manage.
I lived for a very short period of time in isolation. My family got COVID, and so for a period of 10 days I was stuck in my house. But it was the first time for me in this whole experience since March of really having my routine completely disrupted, and it was hard. So for those who might be living really in isolation and struggling with an eating disorder, that's adding insult to injury?
Yeah, isolation for anyone with a mental illness is complicating. But if you think about the social isolation from work, from your colleagues, from your friends, your family, holidays, birthdays, all of these things, their support system is part of their social, atmosphere. And if that's disrupted, it can be very disruptive.
I guess you call it focus treatment centers because you focus on the hope that is there.
Yes, we do.
There is a lot of hope that's there. We understand more. Thankfully, you're in a position to really be able to offer people some reasons to know that they can beat this thing.
Absolutely. So, that is our job, is to create a space, for them to come in and focus on their recovery and receive hope, and look at the underlying issues that may have brought upon an eating disorder, or look how the eating disorder began, and really give them a safe place to do that.
Let's talk a little bit too about what you've done to adapt. That's also going to be the buzzword of 2020 is adaptability.
Yeah.
So here you have this client base living in isolation, and that had to have been horrifying for you. Virtually, you're able to still be in touch with your clients and help them through this.
Yeah, we have a variety of options. So we have in-person residential where people are here and they stay overnight. And of course that's, all here. But our hospitalization program, our partial hospitalization program is, in other words, called a day program. And that's all over virtual. So we'll use Zoom or other compatible products, and they can Zoom into their therapy meetings, their meetings with their dietitian, their psychiatrist, their nurse practitioner, and all of that's done using the technology that we have, our iPads and things like that will allow them. And then we also have, I've developed a scale using virtual components.
This is what you were doing in conjunction with Silicon Valley?
Yeah.
This is exciting. Yeah, elaborate on this.
So it's called ClearStep, and it's a scale that doesn't have numbers, and that can be very troubling for someone that has an eating disorder to be looking at their numbers on a scale, especially in early recovery. So without numbers, we get what we need as the practitioners, and they get to stay in our program, and we get to build their insurance by collecting all these data points from them. And so it's a way that, a compassionate way to continue to do our care, and one that we've used throughout the whole country. So,
do you work in conjunction with the support group though to help them know what they can be doing at home?
We do. So we have a family program, and we do education for families that allow them to have a better understanding of what eating disorders are and where they come from and how they can be helpful, and how sometimes they can look at areas where they can, make improvements on how they interact with their loved one.
Let me bring you back to COVID. I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
So we don't know when this is going to end. There's hope there too, but we don't know how long this way of life will be.
Yeah.
So do you have any encouraging words or words of advice for anybody watching who might be struggling with an eating disorder? How do you get through these remaining months?
Well, I would say that there is so many people out there willing to help right now. I think we've seen our small section in the mental health field grow so much in the last 5 years that there are places that are ready and willing and able to help. Most of them offer free assessment. So if you feel like you might have an eating disorder and it is controlling the way you live your life, reach out to someone. Go to the National Eating Disorder Association and call the helpline. They can give you some support or point you in a direction.
And if you are on the opposite end of it and you're someone who's watching someone you know and love struggle, and you want to intervene but you don't know how, can they contact you to get some advice or some resources that they can access to help? Absolutely.
We can make a referral for them to see a mental health specialist that could help them in an intervention, or we can give them education tools, websites that they can go to, and resources, provide them with social support groups in the area as well.
And I guess to remind everyone, whether you're the person going through it or the loved one watching, that this is not an easy journey, but it is one that you can succeed in.
Absolutely. We do believe that people can recover from this condition. But you're right, it can take a long time to do that.
Thank you so much for the chance to come out here and talk with you, Dr. Chris Harris with Focus Treatment Centers right here on Shallowford Road, a beautiful setting. Their phone number and website there on your screen. We're back after this.
Our 2 biggest days to save has been extended at Ashley Home Store. For a limited time only, save